Greetings, everyone. Well, it's closer look time again on the Multimedia Chronicles. Today we're going to be checking out the DVD of Robotix, the movie. This is a Region 2 DVD. It never actually got a Region 1 release, but it got 2 Region 2 releases. So we'll take a look at the covers for both of those. Robotix was, of course, based on the Hasbro toy line of partly motorized toys, robotic toys, and I think they had interchangeable parts and stuff like that. It was a pretty neat toy line. I remember seeing the commercials for it. Anyway, the cartoon was only ever a mini-series. That it never actually went to regular series or anything like that. So a lot of people think it was a 5-part mini-series. It was not. It was actually a 15-part mini-series, but 15 like 7-minute segments. It originally debuted on a show called Super Sunday. And what Super Sunday was once a week they would have one chapter of 3 different stories. So it was like a half-hour show, so you get one 7-minute chapter of each of the shows that they had ongoing. And every episode would end on a cliffhanger, so you'd want to come back the next week. So it was very reminiscent of the old movie serials, and I absolutely loved it. And I watched every single episode of it and love all the shows that came out of it. So Robotix was one of the first shows that came out of it. And then they also had Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines, which was only 10 episodes, oddly. It wasn't 15. I don't know why it was slightly shorter. They also had Gem and the Holograms actually premiered on there. That one, of course, went on to enjoy considerable success as a regular series later. And then, of course, the Inhumanoids, The Evil That Lies Within, which I did a video about a while back. So Robotix was one of the other big ones, and even though it didn't extend beyond its Super Sunday appearances, it's always been a bit of a fan favorite, and it's had several video releases over the years, which we'll take a little look at in today's Closer Look. So that's what we're going to talk about today, Robotix, on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Okay, just to give you kind of the gist of the story of Robotix, good old sci-fi action-adventure 80s style, gotta love it. I'll just read the back, just makes it easier. Disaster struck 3 million years ago on the planet Skalor. The vital essences of its inhabitants were stored in CompuCore, the central intelligence bank of the planet. As the database is opened, Robotix emerges. The grammar in this is a little awkward. Anyway, transferring the personalities of eons past into huge, powerful machines, the Robotix are divided into 2 fractions. Fractions? How about factions? I think that's the word they were going for. The peaceful Protectrons. It's Protectons. And the evil Terracores. When a ship from Earth, spelled with a lowercase e, by the way, crashes on Skalor, humans join the Protectrons, again, in the battles to redeem peace and fight off evil. Yes, beat off all that evil. Anyway, it's kind of like the Transformers, if you think about how the Transformers started. I remember thinking this at the time, because, of course, Transformers had come out only the year before, in 1984. So, naturally, I was all about giant robot cartoons and, you know, good versus evil and all that good stuff. So in this case, though, it doesn't take place on Earth. It's actually, it's kind of the reverse of what Transformers was. Or Transformers was robots from Cybertron were in the middle of a civil war and raced off to Earth and ended up crashing there, and then 4 million years later got revived. This is a little different, where 3 million years prior on Skalor, the Protectons and Terracores had their big civil war, transferred their essence into CompuCore, and then were later revived 3 million years later when, around the same time that these Earth people crash on their planet, and, you know, the conflict begins anew. So, yeah, it was kind of interesting to me that it took place on an alien planet instead of it just being aliens coming to Earth. It seemed like everything was taking place on Earth or an Earth variant. So, I don't know, it's just kind of nice to see a bit of a different spin on a familiar idea. But the vibe of it is very early Transformers. Like, it just kind of feels like a slight recycling and retooling of the same basic origin story. Once it actually gets moving into the main meat of the story, it goes off and does its own thing. But that initial thing, it seemed like everything was so-and-so crashes on Who's It's and meets up with What's It's, and the battle begins. It just seemed like that was the main gist of it. Thundercats started that way. Dino Riders started that way. What was it? Beast Wars started that way, which is another Transformers series. Like, everything is so-and-so is being chased by so-and-so and crashes here. And, it just, like, even in 1985, as, a 13-year-old, I was picking up on these similarities, but I didn't care, because as long as, in the end, I was getting some cool 80s-style sci-fi action-adventure, then I was cool with it. Anyway, let's head on down to the black table, and we'll check out this release. I also found the cover of a previous release of Robotix on DVD, another Region 2 release. The only release we got here in North America was a VHS release, which I briefly had. I got it used from a video store, and that was the only sort of official copy I had. I sadly didn't record it back when it was originally on. I kind of wish I did, because it would have been nice to have Super Sunday in its original format, especially for stuff like Gem, where when Gem was turned into a regular series, they actually went back and tweaked a lot of the animation and kind of polished it up, changed some things, re-edited things a little bit. So it's still the same story. It's essentially unchanged, but there's a lot of animation tweaks and fixes and such in the series version, where they took the 15 episodes of Gem and re-edited it into a 5-part miniseries. They did the same thing with Inhumanoids. But it would have been kind of cool to have it in its original Super Sunday form, because it had its own custom intro, which featured all of the shows that were ongoing at the time. And I don't know, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of copies of that form of it out there, and it's unlikely we're ever going to see it released on any kind of home video format in that form. Of course, we've had home video releases of all the shows that were a part of it. Sadly, Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines has only ever had a VHS release, which I've never managed to get my hands on. But Robotix has had several releases. Gem, of course, has had several releases. And Inhumanoids has had several releases as well on VHS and DVD. Anyway, finally, let's go down to the black table and we'll check out all the various releases of Robotix. Okay, here we go. Robotix the movie. So once again, this is basically all 5 parts, or rather all 15 parts from Super Sunday, edited together into a single movie presentation. So, I mean, the opening and closing titles were the same for every episode anyway, so you're not missing anything. It just basically presents the whole story in one go. Very nice. And not much to speak of for the disc art. That's all we got. And that's that. Very nice. So I should mention, I did used to have this on VHS back in the day. Now, we never got a DVD release here in North America. This is the only DVD release that I know of, was the UK release. But if you want to look at the old VHS release, which I used to have, that looked like this. And there you go. So I guess if we just put the DVD there next to the VHS, which of course I don't have anymore, so we'll just pretend it's there, right there. Robotix, the movie. Sadly, all they ever did of Robotix, but hey, something's better than nothing. And there you go. So, sadly, as I said, it never went beyond this one single miniseries. So it's kind of short and sweet, but I don't think the toy line lasted very long either. To be fair, at that point in the 80s, 1985, there was a glut of action figure and robot toys and things like that. Of course, Transformers and G.I. Joe and Thundercats were the kings of that era. And a couple years later, we had Ninja Turtles, which just dominated. 1986, we had Real Ghostbusters, which just dominated. And a lot of the other toy lines, which kind of came out around the same time, didn't quite do as well. You know, we had Jason the Wheeled Warriors that kind of tanked, and then we had Mask did fairly well, but it still didn't reach the same heights as the others. And yeah, and there was a lot of others that would just take far too long to go into. Anyway, Robotix was kind of one of those little hidden gems that if you like Transformers and G.I. Joe and stuff like that, and that sort of era of cartoons and that style of animation, definitely worth checking out if you can get your hands on it. You'll recognize a lot of the same voice actors from those other shows too. They just seem to be the standard stable. This was produced by Sunbow, who did a lot of the other familiar shows as well. So they used a lot of the same voice actors for all their shows, so you'll hear a lot of familiar voices in there. Anyway, that's about it from me to you for now. Hope you enjoyed. Big thanks to you for watching. Big thanks to my Patreon sponsors. Don't forget to hit thanks if you'd like to support the show. Be sure to catch me on Twitch, where I stream just about every day, and I will see you next time. Until then, sayonara.